welcome into the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. Figured that out because you're smart and it's also the name of the show. My friends, it finally happened. Friends, servants, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do oft lives after them. The good is often interred with their bones, so let it be with Caesar. Why am I quoting Julius Caesar? I have no idea. But here's what I can tell you. We finally, after a few months of doing this show, we have reached 500 subscribers. We've actually gone over 500 subscribers, and I have a lot to tell you about with that. The drive to 500 is successful. We have finally reached 500 subscribers on the channel. It has gone past that. There is now an incentive for all the people who made it in on the first 500. Now, I've laid this out a few times before, and it actually coincides very well with the holiday season. I said that once we hit 500 subscribers, we're going to do the drawing within 7 days of hitting 500. Yesterday was technically when we hit 500, so that was Tuesday. Exactly 1 week from Tuesday is Christmas Eve. Now, I don't want to do the drawing on Christmas Day because I don't want anybody to feel left out and sad. If I make you a little bit sad on Christmas Eve, it's probably not the worst thing in the world. So here's what's going to happen. Everybody who's subscribed to the channel through the first 500, we're going to say the first 504, 505, whatever it is right now, I'm going to take all of those people and I'm putting you into a big old spreadsheet. I'm going to throw you into a randomizer, but because you're the first 500 and I'm technically not doing the drawing for another week, everybody who was in the first 500, you're going to get 5 entries each. I feel like that's fair. Anybody who's beyond that 500 threshold who subscribes in the next week, they're each going to get 1 entry into the contest. I think that's fair. If you don't think that's fair, sorry about you. I think 5 per person. That is quite the discrepancy, and I don't exactly expect the channel to grow by another 500 people in a week. Now, if it does, I'll be thrilled. Don't worry. Don't get me wrong. I'll be thrilled. And I also do want to make sure I point this out. Just because the show hit 500 subscribers and the drive to 500 is over, that does not mean that we are done doing giveaways on this show. I would like to get to 1,000. I'd like to get beyond 1,000. I'm already starting to formulate in my mind what a 1,000 subscriber giveaway is going to be. It won't be quite as catchy as the drive to 500, but it'll still be good. So that's the plan as of now. Everybody gets 5 entries if you're in the first 504, 505, or whatever. And then anybody who comes in after that, you get an entry each. I will do the drawing. It will be on this channel. Maybe we'll just do it on Monday's show. Maybe I'll cut it a day short. I think that's fair. So we'll do it on Monday's show. We'll make it part of the whole thing. I was going to do Christmas Eve now. We'll do it on Monday's show. So if you're excited, if you came here expecting the drawing, you have to remember, I reiterated this a bunch of times, and I think it was in the original tweet that had gone around for quite a while, within 7 days of hitting 500. So nice incentive here, and I want to thank everybody who subscribed to the channel. It means a lot. I'm very excited about the fact that the channel is growing and that I look at unique and I look at how many people come back for returning versus new. I look at the people who check out the shorter clips that are, like 7 or 8 minutes each. Pick up a bunch of subscribers that way. That's always interesting to me. And then, of course, all of you who join me every day in the comments section. I wish I could give you 10 entries each for some of the people that I'm used to seeing in here all the time who give, or are essentially to some extent like the lifeblood of the show, who are here all the time. I have not forgotten about you. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I'm going to turn this center stagey thing off that keeps making it bounce, the video, because it's driving me a little bit nuts, and I can't imagine that it's not driving any of you insane as well. I do also have to make sure that at some point I get a gift down here from Andrew Fawcett for the holiday season. He sent me something because he's the best, and I'll have to have it on camera for the next few episodes. Anyway, I'm going to go out to the comments, and then we have a lot to do. Last Wednesday's show ended up kind of being like a media roundup, and I thought about it, and it's like, all right, well, the Sixers actually picked up a win this week. Now 37.5% of their wins this season have come against the Hornets. We will get to that. We'll get to a little bit of good Sixers news. We'll get to Stephen A. Smith on Joel Embiid, which was, that was quite the drive-by. We had a couple of Eagles things pop up. We had Keyshawn Johnson talking about Jalen Hurts proving his haters wrong. We also are going to talk about Brian Dawkins, talking about Quinyon Mitchell. There's also something that came out from Jay Glazer about Brandon Graham apparently going to meet with Jalen Hurts during the bye week. We found out that Hubie Brown is going to be calling his last ever game at 91 years of age, and it will be a Sixers game very early in 2025. We'll get there as well. And we will probably wrap up today with one of the worst PR debacles I have ever seen from a professional team. And thankfully, all of the Philly teams can take a moment and they can realize it has nothing to do with them. It has to do with the Charlotte Hornets. We're going to get into all of that. Will we get to Jack Elliott and his departure from the Philadelphia Union in what is a very cheap move, it appears, from the Union? We might get to that later. I don't know. If somebody reminds me, maybe. All right, we're going to go out to the comments quick, and then we're going to dive into all of it. Will today be an hour-long show? Probably not. But then again, I am me, and we all talk. And it takes a while sometimes. Andrew Fawcett with the morning. JH calls it perfect timing. They start going back and forth. Landros, too, says congrats. Andrew Fawcett dropping those beautiful, celebratory, I don't know, are they like streamers? Are they like the, what are those things called? Not a kazoo. What are like the little, so yes, let me know. Okay. It's the thing like, they look like a little cone. They sometimes have little streamers. Like, I don't know what they're called. Almost sounds like, Lucy. It's not that, though. JH says, good. Going to wrap some gifts this morning. Got my cocoa. Watching the Philly Yule log. Italian Market Burn Barrel. Life is good. JH, do me a favor. Send me that link. I would love to have the burn barrel. That's great. We're getting some congrats in here, which is great. Chris Freed with a pro wrestling point, but I'll take it here for a second. I think in the calendar year 2025, I think I'm going to bring back It's Just Wrestling. I built that YouTube channel into like a sizable one, and then I just stopped doing the show. My love of professional wrestling kind of hit the back burner a little bit, which kind of stinks, but I think I'm going to bring the show back in 2025. I was going to try to do it here at the end of 2024. We'll see. AEW has World's End coming up. Saturday night's main event was actually pretty entertaining over the weekend, but Chris points out that a Saturday night main event has never been held in Philly. I didn't know that, but that's pretty wild. We got Ford. Ford is there. Ford also is asking for 5 Brandon Graham Kelly Green jerseys. No. Jamie, also here with a good morning. Hello, Jamie. Let's see. Ford says, drawing is Monday, 12/23. Ford's Brandon Graham Kelly Green John is being sent via UPS next day air to Ford's house. I'll tell you what, Ford. If you win, which I'm not going to rig this, okay? I'm going to be fair. I'm going to take the spreadsheet. I'm going to drop it into a wheel. I think, what was it called? I used to use the site when I was teaching. I mentioned this for Ford just for that. It was called like Wheel Decide. You could throw people's names on it, and it kind of like was like a big spinning wheel. So I'll probably just do that as part of the show on Monday. I'll just drop everybody's name. Now, here's the real problem. What if somebody subscribed to the channel has no idea that the Drive to 500 is going on? Like, what if it's somebody who just lives for the like the 8 to 10 minute clips that I drop from the show, and they have no idea because they don't watch the live show? We're gonna have to like put something in place here that like, if it goes a certain amount of time without that person reaching out, then we're gonna have to figure out how we go to like the next person and the next, and hopefully it doesn't go much beyond like 1 or 2. If we get to like 10 or 15 people, it's like, wow, nobody really wants the jersey, huh? Then I might have to make it, just based on the people who interact during the live stream. Anyway. Obozo must go, says the Rustache has finally shown up. I think I had it the other day. I'm pretty sure I had it on Monday, but it is back. I got lazy for a while. I'm happy to have the Rustache back. I missed it. I really did. Ford thinks that the things are called party noisemakers. That seems like a really lame name. We need to come up with something better than that. I don't like that name. I don't appreciate it. I don't endorse it. Ford thinks that he should just win something for all the time he spent here and on Crossing Broadcast, the amount of chatting, the true genius comments. You get acknowledged. You get acknowledged. There are people who are trolls on streams who have been banned. You have not been banned, Ford. I think that in and of itself is probably worth it. Andrew thinks that only people who are present at the drawing on Monday should be eligible. That's bold. Very, very bold. Chris Freed asks, should we be rooting for or booing Carson Wentz if he starts on Saturday? I don't know. It's a bit of a moral conundrum. I think that on a human level, we root for Carson Wentz. Yeah, you know what? I'll go there. Listen, the Chiefs are going to win the AFC. It doesn't really matter. It's not particularly close. On a human level, I would like to see Carson Wentz succeed. I hold no ill will. He got this Eagles team very close and in position to go on a magical Super Bowl run with Nick Foles. I hold no ill will for Carson Wentz. The Eagles were still able to go out and draft the guy that they believe is their franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts. They were able to use some of the capital that they got back for Wentz to get a number of good young players. I'm fine with it. I will root for Carson Wentz. I don't particularly like the Chiefs. I'm not going to rag on Carson Wentz. I think that any guy who has to go from here and from being on the sidelines injured, watching his team win a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, and then goes on to have to play for Washington, I think that guy's done enough community service now. So I'm not going to actively root for him, but I'm not going to root against him if he gets to start in place of Patrick Mahomes this weekend. It is interesting. I mentioned this on Monday. There is a legitimate fear in the league that, like, after all the money Netflix paid to have Christmas Day game, to have the Chiefs playing, if Mahomes doesn't play and instead you get Carson Wentz, that is one hell of a drop-off. And it just doesn't have... I mean, listen, football fans are going to be football fans, right? So the idea that, like, Patrick Mahomes not playing on Christmas Day is going to, like, kill the streaming number that the NFL will do on Netflix anyway, like, I don't believe that. Could there be some truth to it? Will we see as many people actively paying attention to the game if Mahomes isn't in it? I don't know. But, like, let me just kind of play this one out. So it's Chiefs at Steelers. The Steelers will still have something to play for. So it's going to be a competitive game. Yeah, like, I think if you're a football fan, you're going to watch that no matter who's under center for Kansas City. Now, this weekend against Houston, I think, is actually the same thing as well. I mean, if you have Sunday ticket, you're probably going to have an eye on that game. I'm a big CJ Stroud guy. I don't hate Houston. I actually like the city of Houston. We've established this on the show. I will want to watch Houston beat Kansas City this weekend. But on Christmas Day, I'm going to watch that game no matter what. Which is actually unfortunate for the NBA, because what was once the crown jewel of their entire game portfolio, the NFL came in and just kind of swung their power around and took over Christmas Day. I'll have multiple screens going. Like, I love basketball. It reminds me of my Baba. I remember sitting on the couch with her, watching that as she would fall asleep with, like, a soda can in her hand, okay? I have a picture of it. I'm probably not going to show my Baba on this show, but she was a delightful lady. And I can tell you that, like, there is always going to be part of me that's going to want to watch basketball on Christmas Day. And at the same time, I also have to admit that, like, Chiefs Steelers, no matter who's playing quarterback for the Chiefs, is going to still get a lot of my attention. Andrew Fawcett says he will not watch the Chiefs, period. Jamie says, if for some reason you end up on the western side of the state, those channels may have Chiefs-Steelers game without needing Netflix. This is the case in Maryland with the Ravens-Texans game. Good knowledge out of Jamie. That is good to know. I had no idea. But now we know, because it's Mike's super short show. Okay. Chris Freed with a good call here, and then we're going to get into it. NFL did the old Coy Detmer post-touchdown dance and whipped it out and spanked it on the NBA. Yeah, poor NBA. Their ratings are down year over year, and the NFL has stolen Christmas Day. The NFL is effectively the Grinch. Roger Grinchdell. That's actually not that bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not that bad. Roger Grinchdell stole Christmas Day from the NBA. It was the one thing that they got to look forward to. It was the one day that they owned on the calendar during football season. Was Christmas Day, was for the NBA. And here we are, it's a Wednesday. There are no Wednesday football games in the NFL. You get Monday, you get Thursday, you get Saturday late in the season, you get Sunday. Wednesday's supposed to be this untouchable day. Just leave them the hell alone. And Roger Grinchdell walks in and says, nah, you know what? I think I'll have that one too. I think I will. It's not, for those smaller leagues, right? Because everything relative to the NFL is small. The NBA had Christmas. To some extent, the NHL had New Year's Day. There were always bowl games, but like the NHL had the Winter Classic on New Year's Day. They screwed it up by watering it down and having a whole bunch of Stadium Series games. But like those two leagues especially needed something special. The NHL, once again under Gary Bettman, shot themselves in the foot like 7 or 8 times, not just once. And they watered down the product and they took away the really interesting element of the outdoor game. I will exclude Lake Tahoe, though, because can we have it? I'm going to derail myself. Can we just have a second here? Like, if it were me, okay, this is my suggestion to the NHL and to the NBA, and it's really simple, okay? You need unique venues. So if you're the NBA, I have never, for the life of me, understood why we don't get some sort of game or some sort of tournament at like a Rucker Park, right? I get that the surface is different. I do, okay? And if you want, you can go to Rucker Park and you can throw down hardwood and hope that the condensation issues, the outdoor environment, the elements don't mess it up. But like, if you're the NBA, right? I go back in my mind to like NBA Street Volume 2 or NBA Street Volume 3, right? Or even the original NBA Street, which was a great game in of itself. If I were the NBA, I would try to tap back into the culture of being a young kid playing at your local court or playing at some of these historic courts. Sure, you can't have 20,000 people surrounding a Rucker Park, for example, right? But you could probably get 5,000 with stands. If you are able to get the city to shut down the streets around these parks or shut down a couple of blocks, you could certainly set up risers. You could get enough people in there that it would make sense. And the optics of it would be incredible. I look at something like the Lake Tahoe game that the NHL did, right? You have this beautiful view in the background, but like you don't have the sight lines ruined by thousands and thousands of fans. It's just a unique game. They tapped into the idea of playing on the pond. Now, obviously, it's an NHL rink. They're not playing on a pond. No one needs to see Travis Konechny fall through the ice and hopefully get himself back up lest he drown, right? But like the idea of tapping into your childhood opportunities growing up and the way that you used to play as a kid. Like, I don't know why the NBA hasn't at least explored it. In the case of the NHL, I think that the Lake Tahoe game was great. I thought that the optics of it were awesome. And yeah, you're kind of losing out on revenue, I guess, if you're an owner, which stinks. So give those games to the owners who like don't have people showing up in the stands anyway. And in the NBA, there are plenty of those as well. All right, I don't know why I just derailed myself that way, but I did, and I don't regret it. And maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think I am. Okay. Andrew Fawcett says, NBA sucks. Not a word about LeBron stepping away for personal reasons. I'll tell you this. I don't mess with the personal reason stuff. You have no idea what's going on in somebody's life. The amount of times that people have stepped in shit because they've been like, oh, there's a personal reason. And then you find out, like, their parent is terminally ill, or they have a kid who got hurt, or a kid who's sick, and then you find that out after the fact, and you're like, oh my God, I feel horrible. I'm not touching it. Somebody says personal reasons, I'm letting them go. I am. Is it possible that as a player you could abuse the idea of personal reasons and getting that kind of like positive buy-in and a little bit of latitude from fans? Sure. But you will not catch me going out of my way to trash somebody for being out for personal reasons. I'm just not doing it. I would rather just let it go. Now, if we find out after the fact that LeBron had his feelings hurt because he wanted to get traded to Golden State and the Lakers didn't execute the trade, well, fine, I'll rip him for that. But I have to wait for that report to come out. I'm not doing that in the meantime. You just never know what's going on in somebody's life. Chris Freed asks, how is Gary Bettman still the commissioner of the NHL? Does he have photos of the owners? Does he know where all the bodies are buried? Maybe, and yes. Landros, too, does not like the NBA Cup. I think that the NBA Cup is actually the one, instead of doing the ridiculously colored courts, what if you just did what I'm talking about? Do the outdoor tournament at some of the most famous courts in the U.S.? Or like, what if you did it at some of the, like, what if you took the NBA Cup and instead of filling out these big arenas, what if you made it, like, take it back to college? Like, what if you got to see some games happen at, like, the Palestra? What if you got to see some games on Duke's court or UNC's court? That would be interesting. Or in Kentucky. Or what if you took the game to cities that don't have NBA teams and they all just became neutral site games? I think it'd be interesting. See, I mean, I'm sure Seattle would like to host a game or two from time to time. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea. All right. I'm seeing in the comments that people are not happy with the idea of this NBA thing. I'm going to hang on to it, and I'm going to hold it in the silence of my heart. Connor Allen checks in and says Sixers at the Palestra. See, I think it's great. That's a great idea. Okay. Let me get you to the Philly sports, because now we've been off the rails for long enough. Let's rein it back in. Let's take you down a couple of rabbit holes that I myself have found and want to dive into. Just a reminder, Friday's show, I'm looking forward to. I think Friday's going to be a lot of fun as we preview the Eagles game in the upcoming weekend. We'll talk more about what's going on with some of these other teams. But it's been kind of like a little bit of a downtime. Yeah, the Sixers pick up a win. But let's get into a little bit of fallout from the Eagles game, and then we're going to get into some Sixers stuff, and then we'll see if we have time for other things at the end of the show. Sound good? Sounds good to me. There was a thing going around because apparently Seth Joyner went on WIP and called out Joe DeCamara. This was on Monday morning after this show wrapped up. I'm going to pull up. So Barstool Philly, they went and transcribed it, and I appreciate it. I couldn't find the video or the audio anywhere. But I'm going to throw this over. Uh-oh, my computer's about to have a meltdown. No melting down, computer. Don't you dare. Don't you dare do it. Computer, no. Bad. Bad. You've had yours. My computer's like really freaking out. I might not be able to do it. All right, I'm going to read it in the meantime. So Joe DeCamara said to Seth Joyner on Monday. Here we go. Now we're okay. Let me ask you a question. The last 3 months, you don't think Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore coached around Jalen Hurts' deficiencies to an extent? Joyner responds, did he look deficient yesterday? Joe DeCamara says, I'm not asking that. So the answer to your question is no. Yesterday he didn't look deficient, but 2 weeks ago he looked deficient, and 3 weeks ago he looked deficient. Seth Joyner responds, see, this is the problem. And you know I love you, but I got to say this. This is the problem that people have with some of the hosts on WIP. We don't want to look at it from a bird's eye view. When something doesn't work, we want to zero in on what is at fault or what the fault is instead of looking at the big picture. When you don't ask a guy, Hurts, to do something and you ask him to be a game manager, even though you're paying him $51 million, you're doing it because that's what's best for the football team at that point of time, to put you on a 7 or 8 game win streak. DeCamara responds, but in my opinion, not just because they were strong running, but because Jalen was struggling. Joyner responds, I don't buy that. This was interesting to me for a couple of reasons. One, I thought it was interesting that Joyner all of a sudden became the voice of reason. The fact that Joyner was willing to go out and, let's say, call DeCamara out, call out the idea of fabricating an entire storyline or about misleading the public on a storyline. I thought that was interesting. I don't necessarily think that it's going to change WIP's programming here, but it's certainly interesting. You guys can let me know if you thought that was of any interest. Here's something that actually was of significant interest. This was Jay Glazer a couple of days ago. Glazer went on to the NFL on Fox podcast, and he mentioned that apparently during the bye week, if we go back a little bit, during the bye week, Eagles go in at 2-2. People like me were calling for Nick Sirianni's head. We were saying that the team looked totally unprepared for games, undisciplined. You had Slay going on to Micah Parsons' podcast and calling out CJGJ in his own way. Jay Glazer breaks this news. I don't remember seeing this anywhere else, so I'll give kudos and credit to Jay Glazer. But apparently, Brandon Graham and Big Dom DeSandro went to Jalen Hurts during the bye week and explained to him that he needed to get it together. Let's listen to what Jay Glazer had to say, and then we'll react on the other side.
I'll tell you this, the drama was way bigger outside the building than inside the building. The first team meeting after Brandon Graham said what he said, Jalen and AJ got up and they're like, man, we're good. Just so everybody here knows, we're fine. Dapped each other up like we're good.
That, first of all, is a really positive thing. I think we all probably expected it. We saw it on the field, right? Hurts throws to A.J. Brown, scores a touchdown. Brown immediately goes to celebrate with Hurts. Almost like an on-field public acknowledgement that they're fine. Here you have Jay Glazer saying that in the first team meeting, after all this happened, after Brandon Graham's comments, that they told the locker room we're fine. So that's a positive. Now let's get to the thing about the bye week.
Brandon got up and he apologized for being a distraction. Brandon's a great dude, and he just spoke out of turn there. But I was told about it. He's like, dude, people there are like, it's going to galvanize. It's just going to make us, trust me, when this stuff happens, it turns us more into, all right, we get to fight the world. And that's what they are, man. Eagles football is bully football. The way they get after you on defense, and certainly that offensive line, man, they just beat you down and beat you down and beat you down. The thing that nobody knows, and this is a credit to Jalen, is in the bye week, Brandon Graham actually with Big Dom went to his house and said, hey man, we need you to kind of connect more with everybody here. Right? As a quarterback, you kind of get lost in that. So much other stuff you got to do.
Let's take a second there. So apparently Big Dom and Brandon Graham, they go to Jalen Hurts and they say, you need to connect better with the team. One of the things that people came back to when the Eagles were struggling, and even in recent weeks, like when the A.J. Brown comment was made and then Brandon Graham goes out and everybody's trying to get their hottest take off. One of the things that people came back to was, I played the clip on the show, was Bill Colarulo had the common denominator was Jalen Hurts. And one of the things that he kind of outlined was that Joe Santoliquito put the story out that people said that Hurts had changed after he got the new contract, all that. If that is true, or if the end of last year, part of that was that Hurts just shut everybody out. This should be a massive positive from the vantage point of Eagles fans everywhere, that he was confronted with it, and that apparently he's taken steps to fix it.
And he went out of his way. He met with the offensive line, connected. He met with Sirianni like 3 times or several times. Connect with him. Connected with, he went out of his way with Graham, with everybody to connect with them more, saying, okay, I understand there's more to the quarterback position than me just sitting here with the game plan and, making sure I could, throw here and throw.
All right, so that was Jay Glazer talking about what I viewed as a very big positive for this team going forward. The fact that apparently good old Jalen Hurts also made up with Sirianni. If there was anything still lingering out there after last year, that he went out of his way to kind of clear the air with the head coach. That was another one of those things that people have kind of come back to a few times. The answers in the offseason and early this season that kind of seemed to shade his head coach. If they manage to kind of bury the hatchet there as well, you talk about galvanizing a team. That's exactly what you want. If the head coach and the quarterback are on the same page, if the quarterback and his number one wideout are on the same page, if the quarterback has now talked to the team and people on the team and been like, hey, maybe I just wasn't projecting what I needed to. And now they are all further galvanized because of the Brandon Graham quotes, the way that things were taken. They would probably say somewhat out of context. Brandon Graham has said that he was wrong to say what he said and he didn't have the full context. He spoke out of turn. You put all those things together, it can galvanize a team. And especially a team that's on the kind of win streak that this team is on. Good night. That's massive for this team going into the postseason. All right. I want to go over to another thing. So Keyshawn Johnson. Keyshawn Johnson has been, for a good amount of time, he can be the voice of reason on his show on Fox. He also shares the set with one of my least favorite personalities in all of media, Paul Pierce. And I want to go over to what Keyshawn Johnson had to say in the aftermath of the Eagles' win over the Steelers. Now, he went on FS1 and had this to say about Hurts and about the haters.
Keyshawn.
Yes, ma'am.
What did Jalen Hurts prove on Sunday?
He didn't prove nothing to me.
or should I say anything to me, whichever one is the correct King's English. He proved something to the haters.
Well,
I didn't say names. I didn't say names. I didn't say names.
I will not accept the slander.
But he certainly proved something to the haters, the people that was questioning his ability to pass the football through the air. Okay? Some people to my left, some people to my right, some people in the center. It just depends. With these wild theories. So when you start to really dial it in and you really looking at it, let's just go big picture all the way back to when he became a full-time starter in 2021. There's 32 starting quarterbacks in the National Football League.
Correct.
And we, like Josh Allen and Lamar and Joe Burrow and all these different quarterbacks that we like.
Right.
But for some reason, this young man can't get us as a national media to buy into what he's selling.
The reason for that, I'm still very convinced that the reason for it is that so much of the national media view Jalen Hurts as a guy who wants to run before he passes. I am not going to compare him to young Michael Vick, but there was a lot of that sentiment around Vick when he got into the league, that he was going to actively look to tuck and run before he was going to go through all his progressions. There have been pundits who have either explicitly said, or for the most part have implied, that they just don't think that Jalen Hurts can read the game appropriately. Is he too small? Is he not good enough mentally, we'll say? That's what some pundits have put out there. I haven't. I still think that Jalen Hurts, especially this season, looks much more like the guy who was an MVP runner-up than the guy who oversaw a hell of a collapse at the end of last year. Josh Allen is interesting to a lot of national pundits because he's a dual-threat quarterback who happens to be white. That is true, because your long-held belief of what a white quarterback in the NFL is more of a Tom Brady, a Peyton Manning, a legit just pocket passer. Josh Allen having the legs to go with it made him all of a sudden interesting, and the fact that he was able to get some wins and to turn things around in Buffalo, a team that had largely been irrelevant for a long time, those all kind of factored in. Joe Burrow, people liked because Joe Burrow was almost a throwback, at least in their own minds, was a throwback to like the Favres of their era, or maybe of a Manning-esque. You looked at him and said, hey, you know what? This guy, if he continues to grow into the player he can be, if they continue to surround him with weapons, he's going to be your prototypical pocket passer. He'll be the best one in the league. That's also part of why people still hang on to Herbert out west, who I would say is more of your Favre comparison, because the guy turns the ball over. The guy has a hell of an arm. He's not afraid to let it go. He's not afraid to throw into triple coverage. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Lamar, by the way, who Keyshawn also mentions, Lamar has now won multiple MVPs. So I don't think that at this point, even if you don't like the style that Lamar plays, and even if you're going to be one of the people who tries to make the argument that Lamar runs too much, which I would not make that case, but some people still try to, he's got 2 MVPs under his belt. It's kind of hard to argue with those results.
I don't know why. When he's third in wins, and this is since 2021, third in wins, out of all the quarterbacks, been to a Super Bowl, been to the championship game, playoff games, tied for 4th in playoff games since 2021, full-time starter. Passing plus rushing touchdowns, that means you're scoring a lot of points. He's 4th. 4th in that category out of all these great quarterbacks that we talk about every day. And in total touchdowns, he's 3rd. And we talk about all these other quarterbacks. But for some reason, he gets all the vitriol, the hate, the disdain for his ability to throw the football. He throws for 290. I think that was Lamar 290, whatever he threw for the other day, 200-something yards, a couple touchdowns.
No, he threw for 290.
Was it 2? Both of them threw for 290. Okay,
so 25 of 32, 290, and 2 passing touchdowns.
Yes. Yes. But he's always done that.
I agree.
Now she agrees. I don't understand.
He has always done that, except for when they seem to think that they need to be a more run-heavy offense, and he needs to manage the game more, which he had done in the previous 2 weeks. This, again, Saquon Barkley being so dominant, I think also maybe to some extent has skewed the perception of Hurts this year. because Hurts hasn't had to play hero ball during this win streak, because Barkley has been able to bust teams open, especially in the second half of games. So if you kind of take that into account, it gives Hurts fewer opportunities to show what he has, especially through the air. He got to show you last week against Pittsburgh. We'll see what it looks like going forward the rest of the season. But, like, I think Keyshawn's pretty spot on here. Go out to the comments here for a second. Andrew Fawcett says, I'll admit it. I said it on the show. I didn't think he was a good passer. He's been much better. Also notes that he thinks that Josh Allen's on a different level. I think that Josh Allen this year especially is on a different level, and I think that the fact that he's had the success he's had without Stephon Diggs is honestly pretty remarkable. And he will probably be, as Landro says here, he will likely be the MVP. Saquon would have to have a historic Final Four games in order to even be back in the conversation. But it very much looks like Josh Allen's award to win, assuming he doesn't get hurt. That's the only variable that maybe gets Saquon back in the conversation. Andrew Fawcett says that Josh Allen reminds him of Dante Culpepper, huge mobile, big arm. I would need to think that one through. I don't know, maybe it was just Dante Culpepper's shoulder pads, but I seem to remember Dante Culpepper just being a massive human being. Like, much more massive. Just the frame was humongous. Humongous big. Now, Jim Cochran, on the other hand, checks in and says, sorry, Josh Allen gets way too much love for a guy that's never played in a Super Bowl. Here's the only thing that you could really argue, right? If Josh Allen played in the NFC, he probably would have played in a Super Bowl now. It just so happens that Allen has run into this Chiefs dynasty a few times in the playoffs, and they're hard to get past. Could this be the year that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills go head-to-head with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, and they get that big win and they go on to a Super Bowl? Entirely possible. I'm not going to bet against them, but I'm also not going to bet against the Chiefs. Probably just wouldn't bet on that one. All right, I think we're okay there. Connor Allen says, when's your official apology video coming to Nick? Depends. It depends. I have acknowledged that this team has really turned things around. They look like a drastically different team now than they did going into the bye week. I still have some questions. Chris the Wreckage Bruce checks in over on YouTube, says Jalen could walk on water and the media would still be mad he didn't run. That's a really good line. That's a legitimately good line. I think that Hurts just, listen, I think as long as a fan base is able to acknowledge the fact that, like, this guy has an unorthodox way of playing, but he ultimately wins you games, you just have to accept it. Like Jalen Hurts said I think it was after the game, or it was going into the Steelers game. I think we played it on the show. He said something to the effect of, like, people are going to have to accept that, like, this offense is going to look like what Jalen Hurts wants this offense to look like. Like, it's going to work how Jalen Hurts wants it to work. The guy wins. I brought up the Saquon Barkley quote last week, but, like, Barkley said, this guy just has it. It's impossible to quantify or, you know, what exactly it is, but he's got it. He has that winning ability. And whether it's as a game manager or it's a guy who gets 290 yards through the air, throws for a couple of touchdowns against the Steelers, he continues to figure out ways to win. As a football fan, that's what you're supposed to want. It doesn't always have to look the prettiest. It doesn't always have to look like the stereotypical pocket passing quarterback. If your team wins and you win the final game of the season, nobody gives a shit if he threw for 300 yards or threw for 100 and Saquon Barkley picked up 3 touchdowns on the ground. Winning is what matters. The crazy thing to me is that there has been so much negativity around the team, despite the fact that they're on this win streak, and despite the fact that it looks like they are all very cognizant of how badly last year ended and how they are working their asses off to make sure it doesn't happen again. Jamie says, unpopular opinion, don't count out Lamar yet. His numbers are better than Allen's except for maybe 2 categories, one being team record. I don't think Lamar wins it this year. I think that the media is very locked in on Josh Allen. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's how it's going to go. Zach O is here now, says, oh, yes. Morning, Russ. Good morning. Good morning, Zach. Okay. So we got that one done as well. Now, let's go with a little bit of positivity. This is a little bit of Eagles positivity, right? Because we just had Keyshawn kind of defending Jalen Hurts. I want you guys to hear something that it may have flown under the radar for you. This happened yesterday on Up and Adams. One of the most beloved players in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles had one hell of a ringing endorsement for a young player on this defense, a guy that we've talked about a lot, and a guy that I've said a few times now, whenever he's able to get his hands on the ball and get a few interceptions and make some of those game-breaking plays to go along with just how dominant he's been against wideouts, sky's the limit. Here's Brian Dawkins on Up and Adams talking about Quinyon Mitchell.
Life is good for your Eagles. And it's nice to see the secondary getting its shine. They're the talk of the town. What impresses you most about those young DBs?
Well, number one is the aggressiveness of each one of them. All of the young guys that have been put in, and their willingness to go and stay aggressive throughout the game, right? And as far as, and I'm pretty sure you're talking about that Quinyon outside, as far as his island is concerned, his ability to do what he's doing at a young age, man, like that is not normal. That is not the normal that you see a young guy coming in. And I will tell you from what I see, and this is a message to him, like when he begins to find the football and pick it, it's going to take us to another level that they literally will not want to throw his side. When he begins to find the ball on the regular and be able to pick those, not just have PBUs, but have interceptions, they will not challenge his side. And then
I'm glad that Brian Dawkins and I had the same analysis. That makes me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. It does. I mean, right now, as is, quarterbacks don't like to throw Quinyon Mitchell's way. Add in the fact that we've seen a reemergence of big play Slay. Add in the fact that Cooper DeJean has been an absolute stud. Quinyon Mitchell, there was the Guantanamo Bay shirt that Sirianni wore at a press conference the other day. Like, he's been locked down, has been fantastic all season. And B-Doc's right. As soon as the guy's able to start getting those turnovers, instead of it just being a pass defense, but it ends up being an interception, he continues to make good reads on the ball. He will have the ability to make a case for best young corner in the league.
Cooper in the slot, right? His versatility, right? His versatility, and once again, his aggressiveness, right? But also, I love for a safety, a versatile guy to be able to make tackles in the open field. And so that is a premium, in my opinion, that you have to be able to make open field tackles and then be able to deliver the big hit. That's what I consider myself to be able to do on a regular basis.
So there you go. One of the most loved Eagles in the history of the franchise, just pouring love onto Quinyon Mitchell and onto Cooper DeJean. That's the kind of thing that has to make you feel good, right? Because like a lot of times you get former players and sometimes they say somewhat negative things about like the state of the league. We see that all the time, especially in the NBA. But like Dawkins, positive guy, heaping some praise, still saying reserve, like not saying these guys need to be defensive player of the year, defensive rookie of the year, none of that. Not that they deserve consideration for the Pro Bowl or for All Pro, but he's just giving you an honest assessment. And once again, pointing out what I think we've all known. Young corners don't make this kind of an impact on the regular, especially as rookies. And yet, that's exactly what Mitchell and DeJean have done. All right, now that was some positivity. We are going to wrap here with kind of a rapid fire. And it's all rapid fire around the NBA. Let's get to, I don't know, we'll call this like a sort of positive, I guess, right? Like we could take a gander at this really quickly. Hubie Brown is going to be wrapping up his career. I mean, Hubie's old. Hubie is an old man. 91 years old. I just learned something by Googling. You ready for this? Hubie Brown. Oh, Hubie. Hubie Brown and I have the same birthday. Oh, Hubster. Hube Hefner, look at you. So Hubie Brown, 91 years old, freshly 91. Good on him. So we're what, 50, 57 years apart? Yeah, we're 57 years apart. Hubie Brown, good on you, fella. Now, is Hubie at the peak of his game right now? But to be doing this at 91 years old. We all know old people, right? We know plenty of old people. We have seen plenty of old people get publicly ridiculed. Listen, man. Listen, and another thing. There's a load of malarkey, and another thing. Excuse me, we're not very old. We're not old people. We're not very old. Those guys are comparatively very young relative to Hubie Brown, who's going up and doing nationally televised games for ESPN. Anyway, Hubie is calling it a career. February 9th on ABC, Sixers at Bucks. What should be, assuming the Sixers can be some form of healthy, should be a really interesting game. Now, why February 9th? Does his contract run out then? Are they just trying to get him across the finish line? Is there something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about medically? I don't know. Again, I don't want to speculate. Seems like an interesting time to have him retire and it not be the end of the season. But we wish Hubie Brown the very best. I think I can speak for all of us when I say, if any of us have something that we love doing as much as Hubie Brown loves calling basketball games, and we're able to still do it at a high enough level to be on national TV doing it at 91 years of age, we'd all consider ourselves lucky. So all the best to Hubie Brown out there. All right, so that's Hubie. Landro says trying to send Hubie out with a bang. Is he going to be working with Mike Breen on that game? Bang! 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 Okay. Anyway. We're just gonna. Ford says, sorry, Hubie, about the horrendous Sixers being your last game. Listen, maybe it'll turn out okay. We don't know. Are these bees? Did JH just send a bunch of bees? I think he did. For Hubie? I think. Okay. Now, we had a bunch of positivity. Now I have to get to one of the wildest hot takes around the NBA. And there have been some very wild ones going around. I saw a quote about how inside the NBA is the worst thing to happen to the NBA, and it's why their ratings are dropped. We're not doing that today. But I do have to go over to something that happened over on First Take. Stephen A. Smith made one of the worst comparisons. And I think that even the biggest Joel Embiid hater would sit back and say, oh, absolutely not. Get that shit out of here. I want you to hear what Stephen A. Smith had to say about Joel Embiid and when being asked about should the Sixers shut him down. Remember, Joel Embiid fractured his right sinus. There was that forearm across the face against the Pacers. He leaves the game. Monday, I showed you what Tom Wilson looked like after fracturing his sinus where like half his face was blown up. The question is out there. Should the Sixers shut down Embiid for longer? Should they let him get healthy? My actual concern isn't the sinus, right? It has since been reported, Nick Nurse said that even though he wasn't here, from what he's learned, this facial fracture, the sinus fracture, is significantly less severe than the prior two, which is great, except like it's the third facial fracture. With that in mind, I'm still more concerned about Joel Embiid's knee and that big-ass brace he's got. That is like clearly, his mobility is limited. Now, is it the brace or is the brace so necessary that he can't play without? I don't know. But okay, let's listen to Stephen A. Smith because he compared Joel Embiid to a former Sixer. And even if you're a hater, I don't know about this. Let's hear what Stephen A. Smith has.
Let me say this affectionately to Joel Embiid.
Still thinking about the squirrels.
He's one of my favorite people in the NBA. Let me say this to Joel Embiid in all seriousness. My brother, you're about a tad bit away from being compared to Ben Simmons.
I'm sorry, what?
It's starting to look that bad. Now, let me tell you something right now. You bring up the injuries and all of that stuff. I look at the disinterest on his face. And that was before it got cracked. Okay? I look at the disinterest, the lack of enthusiasm, whatever. Now, we can talk about his injuries, and fair enough, Perk, right? But here's the problem. You were injured last year. You only played 39 games. In the playoffs, obviously, you got bounced in the first round by the New York Knicks. Sure. You didn't look that way in the Olympics. Looked pretty damn happy. He didn't look pretty damn happy playing in the Olympics, okay?
All right, hold on. We got it. We have to interrupt. He looked like shit in the Olympics, okay? He had a really good game against Serbia. He had a really good game, which was his main focus, his main function for being on Team USA was to try to shut down Nikola Jokic. That was his only purpose. Joel Embiid did not look happy and great in the Olympics. In fact, if we rewind the clock a little bit to earlier on this show, I think I was doing the show around the Olympics. I think it was. If not, it was on Crossing Broadcast. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Embiid did not look happy. Embiid didn't play. He didn't look like himself. We actively questioned if he was hurt or out of shape. National pundits like Stephen A. Smith were saying that he looked like shit. No, he didn't look happy. The only time I remember seeing Joel Embiid legitimately look happy was on some of the behind-the-scenes videos, right? Like there was the one where they were doing the left-handed free throw competition. He looked happy to be around those guys and happy behind the scenes. He wasn't like hitting the DX crotch chop in the Olympics consistently, from what I remember. No, I don't agree with this notion that Joel Embiid looked so much happier and has just looked miserable since coming back to the Sixers. He's looked miserable at the Sixers because he's been hurt.
And then inexplicably, you ain't ready to go come this season. All right?
That's true.
And I'm looking at that, and I got this list of injuries here, just so y'all know. Sinus fracture. Foot, knee, health protocols, back, hand, face, ankle, shoulder, calf, hip, elbow, ribs, injury management. That is why
And a partridge in a pear tree with a fractured beak.
I was against your assertion to sit him down, because I'm going like this. He's always hurt. This brother will get hurt going to the bathroom. I gotta use him when I gotta use him, because I never know. Just because you don't play him don't mean he ain't gonna show up hurt. Wow. Evidenced by him playing in the Olympics, looking just fine, and then 2 months later when the season starts, there's nothing. He's injured, and it's like, what the hell happened?
Molly looks like her head's about to pop off there. Uh-oh. Did my video freeze? ¿Qué pasó? Oh, no. All right, hold on. I might have to flip over to a different camera that I didn't want to flip over to, but I will for now. All right, there we go. I don't know how I'm going to do this. What happened to my video? Where did you go? Friend. All right, let's take this one down. There we go. All right, we'll go over here for now. I have no idea what just happened to my main camera feed. That's far from ideal. It's just gone. Okay. I guess we're going to finish the show over here. Stephen A. Smith saying that is not surprising. Stephen A. Smith is he has been questioned quite a bit this year from the vantage point of, is he somebody who is actively watching the games? And when he's offering his feedback on the games, is he being honest and forthright and truthful about how much he's watching them and how far into these games? I'm going to adjust this. There we go. I think it's been a fair critique and a fair criticism of Stephen A. Smith. I do. For better or worse, like, it doesn't seem like he's actively paying attention. Because again, Joel Embiid in the offseason, or like in the playoffs, or not, Jesus, in the Olympics, did not look like Joel Embiid. He looked absolutely horrible. He looked so bad, in fact, that there were many times where people actively sat back and said to themselves, yo, he shouldn't be playing. He shouldn't be playing in the Olympics at all. Now, this idea of like Embiid as Ben Simmons is so wildly off base. Even if you're somebody who actively hates Joel Embiid, and there are some, I don't know how you could possibly wrap your head around the idea that like Joel Embiid is that bad. Like, I don't see it. I think I might have a way to get my camera back, because this is going to bother me now. We're going to hit a little refresh over here. And in the meantime, Embiid didn't look good in the Olympics. We all called that out. We all realized just how bad he looked, and we were actively concerned about it. So, like, Stephen A. Smith, I think, is just looking for a way to try to drum up some interest for the show, which is fair. He has one of the most successful sports shows on TV. But at the same time, like, we have to be able to call it like it is. And the way that I'm going to call it like it is, let's see. We're going to take this down. There we go. Oh no, the video. We might be frozen. Or maybe we're I don't know. It doesn't matter. Tech, my friends. Tech is okay sometimes. Tech is okay in moderation. But by God. All right. I think we're okay. I think we're back. We should be okay. Now, if Stephen A. Smith wants to make the case that Joel Embiid doesn't look good or happy with the Sixers. That's fair. Because he doesn't look good or happy. But why doesn't he look good or happy? Because he's been injured since the offseason. That's it. He's been hurt for months. You want to question why he wasn't ready to start the season? I've broken this down a bunch of times on the show. I think he got hurt somewhere, either at the Olympics or shortly thereafter, and that's why the Sixers lied about their plan or lied to the public and made it sound like he was on track. Of course he's not going to look happy. It's another season that is supposedly of his prime is being wasted because he's hurt again. It's a season where they finally went out and got a legitimate third star in Paul George. These are things that he should have been able to look forward to and to play with and to play through. And instead, he's missed a ton of the season. He's presumably going to miss even more. They're talking about he's going to be reevaluated in a week. I made the joke he might not play again until January. It's entirely within the realm of possibility. Now, I mentioned on Monday, if the facial fracture was significant enough that he's going to miss a month or 2 months, I would just shut him down and also get him the knee surgery that he apparently passed on getting last year. But if it's just a right sinus fracture and it's not nearly as serious as the other ones and he might be able to play in a week, then fine. But man, he's already a big guy. His weight and his conditioning have already been called into question. And now he's got a fractured sinus. Now, I am not a doctor, but my presumption here is that it's going to be harder to breathe with a fractured sinus. And even if he gets that fixed and has surgery, there's going to be healing. He's not going to look particularly good until that's healed up. Make of that what you will. All right, so that was the Joel Embiid point. Now, we are going to wrap up today's show going away from Philly sports, but staying in the NBA because there was a horrific PR disaster that came by way of the Charlotte Hornets. And it actually happened 2 nights ago. Sixers playing the Hornets. I want you to see what happened at, was this halftime? I think it was halftime. No, there were 3 minutes left in the second quarter. Charlotte brings out a young fan who is very excited to be at this Hornets game. Most people would not be excited to be at a Hornets game. They bring a young kid out, and I want you to just see, I'm going to remove the context for those who haven't seen it yet. This is what happens with 3 minutes left in the second quarter of Sixers Hornets at Charlotte. I want you to hear what the giveaway is to this kid.
Santa Hugo, I have another letter here. It says, Dear Santa Hugo, I have been working hard in school all year and making sure my grades are all A's. I have also been working on my jump shot, but my jump shot in 2K needs some work. I'd really love a PlayStation if you have one. P.S. a PlayStation 5. Wait.
Okay, so apparently the kid writes a letter that he's been working hard in school, working on his jump shot, and he'd really like a PlayStation, a PS5. So the Charlotte Hornet mascot, who's dressed as Santa, a Santa Hornet, I don't like that, they bring out this bag.
When my dad used to play with the square rounds.
Look at this kid. Look at the excitement on this young child's face. Oh, Charlotte Hornets, you are the best. You represent the best of humanity. Look what you've done for this wonderful child. He's so excited. He's going to get to go play NBA 2K on PS5. He's going to be able to go play Call of Duty and pwn the noobs. He can download Fortnite. Maybe he'll play Rocket League. Maybe he'll play, what? Wait, what? Why would he not get to play that? Oh, okay. So this person, Stan USMNT. In this video, my best friend and his nephew get called on the court for a special segment where they gift the kid a PlayStation 5 publicly. But then with the cameras off, they took it away and gave him a jersey. Take a bow, Hornets. You crushed the kid. So one more time. Here's your recap. Okay. The kid comes out onto the court. They give him a PlayStation 5. All right. That doesn't look like a fake box. They give the kid a PS5. And then as soon as the cameras go off, the Hornets take back the PS5 and give him a jersey. Who wants a Charlotte Hornets jersey? Who? Even if you're a Charlotte Hornets fan, you don't want a Charlotte Hornets jersey. If you win the Drive to 500 giveaway on the Russ Joy Show, you don't want a Charlotte Hornets jersey. Kid got a PS5. He's thinking about how he's gonna go tear people up on Madden and 2K and Fortnite. Call of Duty. I said all these games already, but I'm just reinforcing the point that I'm also very detached from games. Maybe he's going to go get the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. I think they're remastering it for PS5. In his mind, he's going to get like the latest Crash Bandicoot game. They still make them. Don't make fun of me. They still make them. He's got it in his head, all the games he's going to get to go play with his friends. In the time between him walking away, he's probably getting ready to whip out the phone and say, guys, I just got a PS5. Just got it. Hornets took it away. They took it away. It's gone. The PlayStation 5 is gone. So obviously, that didn't go over well with the public. Every single tweet and Instagram post and Facebook post that the Hornets put out after that, for at least like a day and a half, were people saying, give the kid his PS5. That was bullshit. Give the kid his PS5. I finally have some good news because the Charlotte Hornets released a statement. And usually, when a team releases a statement, you feel kind of icky. But the Hornets put out the following, okay? They've given a quote. There was a fake quote going around. Now, this was from Nick Carboni, who is the WCNC sports director. And he puts this, let me flip it over to here real quick. This is the statement from the Hornets on what happened at Monday's game. During last night's game, there was an on-court skit that missed the mark. It was a skit? What part of that was a skit? Okay. The skit included bad decision making and poor communication. Simply put, we turned the ball over and we apologize. We turned the ball over. I'm sorry, what? Okay, let's continue. Oh boy. We have reached out to the family and are committed to not only making it right, but to exceeding expectations. How about you just meet fucking expectations? You give the kid a PS5 on the court, let the kid keep the PS5. Anyway, all right, so exceeding expectations. We will be providing the fan with the PS5 that he should have taken home last night, along with a VIP experience to a future game. Our goal is and will remain to elevate the guest experience for every person that enters Spectrum Center and to show our fans how much we appreciate their relentless support. Now, what's not noted in that statement, they didn't say he's going to get to keep the jersey. So will the Hornets now expect the kid to bring the jersey back and swap it so they can use that for a future giveaway? In fairness, the statement doesn't say he gets to keep the jersey. It says he's getting the PS5 and a VIP experience. It says nothing about the jersey. Anyway, that's where I think we're going to end for today. We have to end by dunking on an absolutely piss-poor team. And that piss-poor team is the Charlotte Hornets. They deserve nothing in this world. We wish them the best, and we hope that their holiday season is full of joy. But they probably don't deserve any joy after that. Chris Freed with a good question here. How is the Hornets arena called the Spectrum Center? Yeah, I mean, we had a Spectrum and we had a center, but they weren't the same. Jim Cochran says maybe they took it until after the game so he didn't have to watch that awful game with a huge box on his lap. Come on, Russ. Jim, very clearly, based on their statement, he did not get to keep it. And then he comes back, well, they might be the worst franchise in all of sports. There you go. Andrew also, with a very good point here, calling this out. Terrible statement with awful basketball puns. The turn the ball over thing is absurd. Absolutely absurd. Calling it a skit is insane. It's just not great. Not great at all. I don't know why JH is saying this, but it says they deserve Russ Joy. Oh, because I said they should have some joy in their lives. Yeah. Jamie says, further proof the Hornets are trash. Apparently bringing back Miles Bridges wasn't proof enough. Landros is now committed that if he wins the Drive to 500 drawing, which will be next Monday, that he will now ask for a Charlotte Hornets jersey. That's a good place for us to end. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the Russ Joy Show YouTube channel, which We'll get you an entry now. Monday, we're doing the drawing. Whoever wins the drawing gets the jersey of their choice worth up to $175. So if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I'll also remind you that if you like podcasts more, if you're a podcast person, this show is available within hours of the live show ending. It's available in podcast feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you go out of your way, subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and do me a favor. Take the link to this video on YouTube, share it with a few friends, share it with some family, let them know that they could be entered to win a jersey of their choice. And on Monday, we'll do the drawing. In the meantime, I will be back later this week. Friday, a new episode of the Russ Joy Show. I think Friday's show might be at 8 o'clock instead of 8:30, so keep an eye out, and I'll make sure I set up the studio early. I got to think about a work call maybe having to happen a little bit earlier than expected on Friday, and if that happens, the show will be at 8 instead of 8:30. So just keep an eye out for it, okay? 8 o'clock, that seems very early, but we'll try. We'll do our best. All right, anyway, this has been the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy, but you knew that already because you're smart, and it's also the name of the show. I will talk to all of you Friday morning here on the Russ Joy Show. Have a great day, everybody.